Hi, my name is Paul Qui. I'm going to break down some fish for you guys. I'm sure you guys have seen a fish scaled with a scaler. So for today, I'm going to scale it with my knife. Basically what this allows, it allows me to use the scales as a garnish for my dish. I start from the tail, so I'm going to, kind of like I'm playing a violin, it's basically an up and down like saw motion. All the way up the fish. So I basically get that as a garnish. Basically, you just do that motion to get the fish scales off. The most important part about scaling the fish is to make sure that you get the ridges, the scales on the ridge of the fish by the fins, because that's where you usually get stuck with your blade once you start filleting. So I'm going to repeat that same motion on the other side. You get that? So basically once that is done, just use the back of my blade to kind of remove the excess skin that's going to be on these parts. So I got most of the scales out. I'm going to wipe down my station. And then I usually start with the belly of the fish facing me. I'm going to cut a slit up the belly, all the way up to the head, go behind the fins. You notice that I'm using my slicer. That's not very conventional. But again, I'm a big fan of this steel. And for me, like the less I have to change out my knives, the better I like the knife. So, and I just cut through the head of that bone with ease. And my blade didn't chip at all. So I throw the head off, cut the belly out, cut the guts. And you see this part right here? Normally, like I basically cut a slit on it. And what you want to do is you want to drain a lot of that blood out when you do that. Generally, we do this right when we receive the fish at the restaurant because actually the longer the blood stays in this, I guess, cavity, the more pungent the fish will smell. So right when we receive the fish, we take the head off and take the guts out right away. That way, the blood doesn't really get the opportunity to get old in the fish. Okay, so the next step, breaking down the fish. Do a little slice on the top of the fish. Sorry if I'm moving a little too fast, but I have a hard time instructing and slicing at the same time. So I cut that, then I'll hold it a little bit, the tail down. And Ludimere has like 4 bones. So like there should be no resistance almost. I should be able to just go like that. And as you can tell, that looked pretty easy. So let me get rid of some of these scales, just so I don't get it on the flesh of the fish. I have a hard time working when my station's usually messy. So back to the fish. Do the same thing on the top part of the fish. I always make sure that the tip of my knife feels the spine of the fish. That's always a good indicator that you've cut straight through. And it's the same thing on this side. There should be 4 bones, barely any resistance. So next step, cut the belly out of the fish. So very carefully with your knife, just slicing into the cavity. And I always trim the top part of the fish as well. That's usually where the fillet will stick when I skin it, especially since we serve a lot of fish raw at the restaurant. See how easy I cut through the bones? It's because these knives are really sharp right now. And if your tools are sharp and you take care of your tools, it makes your work a lot easier. So the next step is for me to pin the fish. The pin bone should offer you barely any resistance. If you have to use any kind of force on the fish or flatten your hand on the fish, then you're doing something wrong because it's actually pretty gentle strokes. So one thing that we like to do at the restaurant, we skin the fish. Generally, we'll have it set up like this already, ready to go. And when we're ready to slice the fish, we skin it. And then we just basically skin it with our knives to order. So that's basically how we fillet the fish.